The hidden Roman Empire, how the Pope became the last emperor. History tells us that the Roman Empire collapsed in the year 476 AD, when the young emperor Romulus Augustulus was deposed by the barbarian general Odoacer. That date has been burned into the history books as the end of an age, the final gasp of the Caesars, the moment when the mightiest empire in the world was swept away by invading tribes. But is that really the truth? Did Rome truly fall, or did it transform into something far more enduring, something so hidden that most of us walk past it every day without even realizing it? What if I told you that the Roman Empire never really died, but that it still exists to this very day, its throne occupied not by emperors in laurel wreaths, but by the Pope, seated in the chair of St. Peter? When the old empire faded, its spirit did not vanish. The title Pontifex Maximus, once carried by the Caesars, quietly passed into the hands of the Bishop of Rome. The emperors had claimed to be bridge builders between heaven and earth, rulers not only of men but of the sacred order itself. And when Christianity rose to dominate the ancient world, the popes inherited that mantle. Even today, the Pope bears the same title. In this transfer, something astonishing happened. Rome's authority did not die with its emperors. Instead, it was reborn in the heart of the Church. The seeds of this transformation were planted by Constantine the Great, the emperor who forever changed the destiny of Rome. After his vision of the cross in the sky with the words, "In hoc signo vinces," "In this sign you shall conquer," Constantine legalized Christianity through the Edict of Milan in 313 AD. He built the Lateran Palace and gifted the Church the Archbasilica of St. John Lateran, the mother and head of all churches in the world. He also laid the foundations of the original St. Peter's Basilica, erected above the very tomb of the Apostle Peter. These were not just acts of piety, they were acts of statecraft. Constantine was building not only churches, but the skeleton of a new empire, one that would outlast marble palaces and iron legions. By the 5th century, as barbarians poured across the frontiers, the emperors of Rome were weak and powerless. Yet in the city of Rome itself, another figure rose to prominence. Pope Leo the Great, with no army of his own, walked out to meet Attila the Hun, the so-called Scourge of God. With words alone, he persuaded the Huns to turn back from the gates of Rome. This was not the act of a mere bishop. It was the act of an emperor in all but name. While emperors fell silent, the Pope stood as Rome's last protector, filling the void left by the Caesars. Centuries later, on Christmas Day in the year 800 AD, that hidden empire revealed itself to the world. Inside the great Basilica of St. Peter, Pope Leo III placed a golden crown upon the head of Charlemagne, king of the Franks, and proclaimed him emperor of the Romans. In that moment, the authority of Rome shifted forever. Emperors no longer crowned themselves, they were crowned by the Pope. From that day forward, kings, princes, and rulers across Europe bent their knees to the Bishop of Rome. The Holy Roman Empire had been born, and its foundation was not on battlefield victories, but on the authority of the Pope's hands. The crown of the Pope told its own story. The papal tiara, the triple crown, replaced the laurel wreath of Caesar. It was no crown of one realm but three, symbolizing the Pope's authority over the Church on earth, the souls in purgatory, and the saints in heaven. Even though popes no longer wear the tiara today, its image still adorns the Vatican flag and the statue of St. Peter. It has not been abandoned. It is a reminder that the papacy is more than a church office. It is an imperial throne. The medieval world witnessed the papacy at the height of its power. When Emperor Henry IV of Germany defied Pope Gregory VII, he was excommunicated and stripped of authority. Desperate to reclaim his crown, Henry crossed the Alps in winter, barefoot in the snow, waiting 3 days outside the Pope's castle at Canossa before being admitted to beg forgiveness. Think of that. An emperor kneeling before a pope, just as once senators knelt before Caesar. At that moment, the world knew that the true authority of Rome had passed into the hands of the papacy. Through the Crusades, popes summoned armies across Christendom, sending kings and knights to reclaim the Holy Land. They declared wars, blessed crowns, and brokered peace treaties. The Pope became a monarch above monarchs, a voice that reached from the cathedrals of Paris to the castles of Poland, from the trading ports of Venice to the deserts of Jerusalem. The Church's structure mirrored the old Roman administration: dioceses like provinces, bishops like governors, priests like magistrates, all answerable to Rome. During the Renaissance, the popes wielded not only spiritual but political power. They ruled the papal states as sovereign monarchs, commanded armies, and commissioned the greatest works of art and architecture the world had ever seen. The dome of St. Peter's Basilica, the Sistine Chapel ceiling, the Vatican itself, all of these were the works of popes who acted like emperors, building monuments meant to last for eternity. Even when empires rose against them, the popes endured. When Napoleon seized power, he sought legitimacy from the papacy. At his coronation in 1804, he took the crown from the Pope's hands and placed it upon his own head, as if to say he no longer needed papal approval. Yet even then, Napoleon could not escape the shadow of Rome. He was forced to deal with the Pope because he knew, as every ruler did, that papal authority was unlike any other in the world. By the 19th century, the papal states were stripped away, and the Pope became the prisoner of the Vatican. Yet in losing land, the popes gained something greater, a spiritual empire unbound by borders. At the First Vatican Council in 1870, the doctrine of papal infallibility was proclaimed, declaring that when the Pope speaks ex cathedra on matters of faith and morals, he cannot err. The emperors of old had claimed divinity. The popes now claimed a divine authority over truth itself. In the 20th century, the Pope became a global emperor in a new sense. During the Second World War, Pope Pius XII worked behind the scenes, navigating between the Axis and the Allies. Later, John Paul II, a pope from Poland, became a central figure in the struggle against communism. His words, his presence, and his courage inspired millions and helped bring down the Iron Curtain. No general, no president, no king wielded such influence. Even today, the papal empire continues. In 2015, Pope Francis stood before the United States Congress, a guest of honor no other religious leader had ever been granted.
Mr. Speaker, the Pope of the Holy See.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you Pope Francis of the Holy See.
Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, honorable members of the Congress, dear friends.
He has addressed the United Nations.
The pontiff took the podium to deliver a strong political speech.
Le peuple se tourne vers les Nations Unies comme vers l'ultime espoir de la concorde et de la paix. Nous osons apporter ici, avec le nôtre, leur tribut d'honneur et d'espérance.
Pope Paul VI was not the only pontiff to visit the organization. Pope John Paul II did the same in 1995. He was greeted by a group of children of different nationalities. He entered to a long-lasting ovation. In front of politicians from all over the world, Pope John Paul II spoke about religion.
The United Nations organization accepts and respects the religious and moral dimension of those human problems that the Church attends.
Pope Benedict XVI spoke before the UN in 2008, his speech making all of the politicians stand up and applaud as well. His words at the UN followed the same line as those of his predecessor.
It should never be necessary to deny God in order to enjoy one's rights. The rights associated with religion are also more in need of protection if they are considered to clash with the prevailing secular ideology or with majority religious positions of an exclusive nature.
And finally, Pope Francis visited the UN in 2015. His speech was a powerful social discourse. He claimed before world leaders the right to housing, decent work, access to water, and religious freedom. He also spoke about the environment.
El abuso y la destrucción del ambiente al mismo tiempo van acompañados por un imparable proceso de exclusión. En efecto, un afán egoísta e ilimitado de poder y de bienestar material lleva tanto a abusar de los recursos materiales disponibles como a excluir a los débiles.
Although the first popes
Spoken to parliaments and met with monarchs, presidents, and prime ministers. In every corner of the globe, leaders bend before him, some even kissing his ring as emperors once kissed the hand of Caesar. His authority is not backed by legions of soldiers, but by the loyalty of over 1 billion Catholics across every nation, every culture, every tongue. So the question must be asked, did the Roman Empire ever truly fall? The Colosseum lies in ruins, the Forum crumbles into dust, and the palaces of emperors are silent. Yet a short walk from those ruins stands the Lateran Basilica, still proclaiming itself the mother and head of all churches. The dome of St. Peter's rises high above the Eternal City. Pilgrims from every land crowd into Vatican Square, and the Pope still holds the keys given to Peter. Rome promised eternity, and perhaps it kept that promise. For though the Caesars are gone, their empire lives on in another form. The Pope may not call himself emperor, but in truth, he is the last emperor of Rome, ruler of a kingdom that never truly ended. The hidden empire of Rome surrounds us still, and it has been with us all along.